Your hosts, Landon and Jade, are a married couple of 17 years and counting, are here to give you a swift kick in the ass. There will be some tough love, but we are here to support you to the greatest life you can have. We will bring the sarcasm and humor. You just bring yourself.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Back Roads to Us podcast. Today you're going to listen to me, mostly. I'm going to be the one talking for the most of the part. Today I'm going to kind of tell you a little bit of a story of mine, and the reason why I'm telling this story, obviously you can tell it's not a good one that I like to talk about, but the reason why I want to share it is to let anyone else who's gone through something understand that you can go through things and it can fuck you up, but that's only if you let it. So I'm going to tell you my story. Maybe some of you will connect with it. Maybe some of you will hear something in it. I don't know. We'll just tell it and see how it goes. Okay, so my family, I have an older sister and an older brother. I'm the youngest, so yes, that comes into play with a lot of my personality as I am the youngest child. Lannon's the oldest, so that always plays a lot in with us and kind of makes me laugh. But so as the youngest child, my brother is about 18 months older than me. My sister was about 6 years older than me. And I was a pretty quiet kid. So I didn't have a ton of friends. My best friend happened to be my sister, who is 6 years older. And as I grew up, I was an overweight kid, didn't have a lot of friends. I'd be about 14 years old now. Fucking hated middle school. That is the bane of my existence. I hated that place. So as a kid going through, trying to figure out who the hell you are at 14, being overweight, getting made fun of, not having people talk to you. At that age, this would be 2001, so everyone knows September 11th was a big thing for the world, so here we are, September 11th, going through the Twin Towers and everything like that. A couple days later would be when my event, and I can remember sitting on the bed, watching the video footage of the Twin Towers. Everybody talking about that. And I'm on the phone with my sister. And we're talking about going to American Eagle the next day because she needed some pants for whatever reason. So, like I said, as her being really the only friend I had at that time, I was pretty excited. We were going to go to the mall. It sounded cool at that time. It really wasn't. But we were going to go to the mall the next day. So we say our goodbyes, hang up the phone, and then in the middle of the night, I get woken up by my brother, and he asked me if I know where my sister is. Now, something you gotta understand, my sister was the shyest person you would ever meet. She would not go anywhere by herself. Literally, she wouldn't even go to a gas station by herself. So I kind of tended to be her security blanket. So it was very odd that in the middle of the night I'm getting woken up. My brother's holding the phone in his hand and he's asking if I know where she is. And the first thing is, well, she's at home, And at this point, my sister would be 20, so she lived with my grandparents in town. So my first thing is, well, she's at home, what? I don't know what else to tell you. And he says, well, Grandma and Grandpa can't find her. And my next question is, well, did you, look, she's always on the computer. At that time, we didn't have our cell phones like we do now. So I asked, did you check the computer? She likes to listen to music, download music, and things like that. Well, obviously everyone knew her, so that's the next place they looked. Couldn't find her. So at that point, we start calling other people around, my cousin who would know her. And I believe this was probably like a Friday. I think it was like a Friday this day, or maybe, so we'd be going into the weekend. My parents were out of town. It was just me and my brother at home. And so again, making all these phone calls, can't find her. So here we go with the worry sets in of, well, where is she? Because we all know her. She wouldn't go anywhere without somebody. She wouldn't go anywhere without her hair and makeup done. That's just the way she was. So, as the day, as the night turns into day, mom and dad come home. We all converge to where she lives with my grandparents. And then the calls have to be made of calling the police in. Started looking everywhere for, it started out just our family because for missing persons, it has to be, I think 48 hours. Am I wrong?
Yeah, something like that. I don't remember the time frame.
I don't remember. It has to be such a time frame before they'll actually consider somebody missing. So for us as a family, we knew something was wrong because, like I said, there's no way she would go anywhere by herself. So it was really frustrating when they wouldn't really take us, I wouldn't want to say seriously, but they have to do their thing and they have to, follow the guidelines. So, the first day, anyone can only imagine what that's like for not knowing where somebody is. No trace, no nothing. I mean, her cell phone's at home. We can't find anything. No one broke in, nothing. She just vanished. And obviously the first thing is, well, did she run away? Did she have a boyfriend? And all of us are trying not to laugh because that's the most ridiculous thing ever. And finally, we get to the point where they start getting search parties ready. Like I said, at that age, you have to see your family and see the worries on their face. And, it was horrible. So, I'm pretty sure it was the first day. Did you or your family come and do searches on that first day, or did you?
Trying to remember that far back. I mean, I can't remember. I do remember we were out searching. I can't remember it was after they kind of had a general idea of where they thought she might be, because I remember the areas that, we went searching for people on four-wheelers, people on motorcycles, dirt bikes, and it ended up being, the entire community that we lived in, because everybody was so close with just the church we went to that everybody knew who she was. Everybody knew your family, so it was kind of a community thing. And I remember the areas that we were searching, mm-hmm. and I can't remember if that was after or they just assumed where she was, or it was after the police ended up finding, a little bit of evidence to indicate where she might be.
Yeah, it was, we started getting some hints, and it's a whole story of that, but we started getting some leads of where we thought, of possibly who we thought took her. And I can remember, I'm pretty sure it was that first day, I can remember your uncle and your cousin. I don't know why to this day they're so vivid, but they were. I just remember seeing them, and they're just so clear in my mind. But like Landon said, the community was just utterly amazing. They just came together because we're a small town, and where we grew up in is an even smaller community. So, everyone banded together and started doing searches. And this continued on and on and on. And to this day, it's still, she's still considered missing. So, at 14, you're going into the woods, going and doing searches. Again, you should be worrying about schools and tests, and I'm being told how to distinguish what a shallow grave looks like. I'm being told the honesty of what the body might be like if I find it. I have to see my parents' face, my brother, my family. You have to see, the reality of that. And every day you just keep going, hoping that you're going to find something. And then the realization comes that, you're not going to find. You most likely won't find a live person. You're going to find, like I said, a body. So you go days, you go weeks. I mean, your weekends are spent doing searches. You get cadaver dogs. You start getting into the fact of you have psychics who want to get involved, and my God love them. Sometimes they do more harm than good because they all have an idea of where they think she is. They get your hopes up. You go out there, you search, nothing. It came to the point where you had to say no. My parents had to deal with the fact of they have one daughter missing, but they have 2 kids to raise. They have to go back to jobs. They have a life. So the fact that you have to keep moving on when you don't have any answers, I think that was the biggest struggle we faced. So with that, like I said, as time just kept moving, it's really hard as a child to know how to move on when you lose the only friend you had. And as a family, you come together, but on the other hand, you fall apart. And when you don't really have your family to lean on because they don't even know how to, go through that, your parents, you hear them crying at night, you basically kind of have to fend for yourself in a way. Because everyone doesn't know what to do. This is something that in our community it is not something that was common. It's not something that even the police really had dealt with a lot. So this was a huge thing for our community that this happened. It kind of blew a lot of people away. And I think it really kind of just either made you really numb or it made you, I don't know, you try to hide from it. You try to face it. All of us kind of dealt with it in our own way. As families, you deal with it on your own, but you try to deal with it together, and sometimes it just doesn't work that way. We had to wait so long before we actually kind of all determined that we weren't going to find her, and we all had to come to a sort of, not a place of okayness, but a sort of a place of acceptance that you basically had to mourn and move on. We had you get a headstone made. You put it on an empty grave. You basically have to go through the rest of the years. I think, even after we were married, it happened. If the police would find bones, they would call my parents and say, hey, we found some. We got to do some testing. It might be her, it might not. So this is not something that goes away. It's not something that's ever going to go away until...
I don't think it'll ever go away. It's still an active case with the county. I mean, it's still under investigation, and whether they ever close it, I doubt it. It'll always be open until one day maybe they find something. But it's something I think that you and your parents and brother have come to terms with, something you'll never be okay with, because you can't be okay with something like that. I mean, you're missing a member of your family that you don't know where they are, what happened to them, and there's always that fear that if they are found, that with new technology or whatever, that you might find out what happened. And that's a scary thought, because at this point, I don't want to know. I mean, because you don't want to know what she might have went through, because at this point, if you did find her, that is a good thing, because there's something that you could have that you could maybe lay to rest and okay, we found her. But that would be the good part of it. Like, okay, we found her, but I don't want to know anything else. Like, I don't need any testing done. I mean, all I need to know that it was her, because I don't want to know what happened, because it just brings everything flooding back, because it brings back, the media and everything else in the attention. And that's not what you want anymore. It's the memory that you have of her is the memory you want to keep. You don't want to put something else bad into that memory that you might find out.
Correct. And that was one of the biggest things of when everyone asks, well, do you want to find her? Do you want to find her? Well, obviously, yes. But on the other hand, just like Landon said, we basically have ideas of what happened, but we don't want the actual confirmation of what did happen. We're fine with it. We don't need that. We've come to terms with it, and we don't need the body to make us feel like we know that she's gone. We know. You can tell in your heart when someone's not there. So when you go through that young, it's obviously going to leave a lot of scars. You're gonna a lot of things that I didn't realize were problems that I was creating myself. As I got older, got into high school, I'm still this lost little girl that doesn't know what's going on. With that, like I said, I was an overweight kid. Well, when this happened with my sister, when I get sad, I don't eat. I just stop eating. So I stopped eating. And I started losing weight, which was a good thing because I needed to. And then I started getting oh, you're looking good. Oh, you're losing the weight. I mean, because it's obvious I was overweight. It's not like I didn't eat ever. I didn't go anorexic. I just didn't eat as much because I was sad. So, I started losing some weight, which started making me feel better. So I was able to, as sad as it sounds, I was able to get some good out of the situation because I started realizing what I was doing. It forced me to get out and find new friends. Forced me to get social. I can honestly say that if this didn't happen, I would not be where I am now in my life. I know I probably wouldn't marry you because I probably would still be the quiet, sad little fat girl. I don't think I would have changed if something drastic like this wouldn't have happened because I can just see me staying in one place like that. So looking back, you have to look at the ways that it not benefited, but the ways you were able to use this experience and shift your life to better it. But I also know that it caused a lot of rifts in our marriage because I didn't really deal with the emotions of that. I very much just internalized all of it. I didn't have anyone to really talk to. I didn't like to talk. As you can see, even talking about this makes my throat to close up because I don't like talking about it. So with that, it caused some emotional scars, caused me to not to deal with things, and it caused me to grow into a person who was very angry inside, very sad, very lonely, very, I don't know, just someone who wasn't fully healed, wasn't as good as she could be. So when we got married, I can see that through our marriage that I caused a lot of problems because of just not dealing with things. As I started realizing that I didn't want to be the person I was because I knew I could be better, I started working on myself, started making changes, started meditating, started really looking in at myself and realizing the hurt I had caused myself, my husband, my family, anybody, because I just wouldn't deal with the emotions because they're big and they're scary and I don't want to touch it. I don't want to look at it. I want to lock it away and ignore that it ever happened. Which is why most people have never heard me talk. They don't even know I have a sister because when someone asks, you got a brother and sister? I say, yeah, I got a brother. Because the next question is, well, what do they do? Where do they live? I'm not answering those questions. I'm not telling everybody my story. I don't tell the story for pity or for understanding because it doesn't matter. I tell it because I want people to understand that when something like this happens, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to look, it's okay to feel all these deep and all these emotions, but you need to deal with them. You just need to understand that it's okay. There are people always there for you. And honestly, if anyone has gone through what I've gone through, I am so very sorry. Know that I understand. And if you want to talk about it, I would talk about it with you because it's not something that you just bring up in random conversation. It's just not. So to have somebody to actually talk about it with is not fun. So luckily enough, it made it easier when I married Landon that he had gone through the experience, not personally, but he had been in the community and stuff through it. So it helped him understand some of my issues.
Well, and I think, we'll talk about it, in a later episode, but the friendship part, I think that helped our friendship and our marriage where I did know what happened and those days that you weren't having a good day or you had this bad moment because of thinking about whatever, I actually understood because someone else that didn't know the situation may have not understood what you were going through, even if you explained it to them. Because like when I was there, when I seen it happen, when we were helping search, when we were doing all this other kind of stuff, you knew the experience that had been happened. Obviously you can't feel what had been felt, but you knew what you'd gone through. And unless you'd been in the situation with the community and that, like, known your sister, I mean, I didn't know her well. I knew who she was. I knew who, all that kind of stuff from church. But unless you knew or were involved in it, it might be kind of hard to understand. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things where I think it helped us with our friendship and was able to work through it with you versus I can't take what you're doing. This isn't working. Where it's like, yeah, it was traumatic. So what do we got to do to be better friends? How do we got to connect better? It's work for us, you know. It's one of those situations that I'm sure at time to time still comes up because you're never going to forget it. And it's one of those things where I think it's kind of disrespectful to forget it because you don't want the memory of your sister to be pushed away because that's disrespectful to her because you want to keep the memory because you want to remember the good. Like that is like when you get emotional about what happened, that is actually a testament to how you actually felt about her. Because, you know, if you had no emotion towards it or were kind of like, yeah, whatever, your relationship wasn't that great, but you feel deeply enough about her that you get emotional when you talk about it or you think about it because that's what she actually meant to you. So you don't want that memory to go away, you know? So I think being there when it went on, mm-hmm. it helped us in our marriage because we ended up, and maybe that's why we met, or maybe that's why we started dating. I don't know. I guess it really doesn't matter. You know, I mean, it's worked out great for us and we've worked through it. Like you said, a lot of people don't understand or know what happened. I mean, it was pretty tough. I guess a little bit of backstory to it that people don't know is the way they found out a lot of the information too is this person, he abducted another girl that we went to high school with. She was a year younger than us. I can't remember how many years after this happened with your sister. He took her off of a trampoline in her backyard, abducted her. He had her basically locked up in the house where he was at work. And she got away. Luckily, you know, she got away, got out of the house by some miracle. And she called her mom. Her mom came, picked her up. And when, you know, this individual came back to the house, probably was going to do the same thing he did to your sister. But the cops met him at the house and they got in a chase and he fled from him and ended up in a gunfight. And they ended up shooting him and then he ended up shooting himself. So, you know, it turned into a big ordeal. And then later on we find out that they were pretty sure he was involved with a kidnapping, abduction of two younger girls 15, 20 years prior. So it was more of a serial type situation where he'd kidnapped multiple girls. Luckily to this day, something good that did come out of this is they created a missing persons day for the state. And that's another hard thing I see you go through is every time that day comes up, you know, everybody's like, oh, you know, we want to talk about your sister. The media wants to talk about it, you know, especially around here. And it's, you know, this day isn't always just about your sister. It's mm-hmm. about the other people that are still missing. You know, we have a National Missing Persons Day. It's about those people, those kids, whoever it is that's still missing, that still have a chance, that day should bring awareness to that. I mean, yeah. We're pretty sure, probably 99.9% sure we're not going to find her mm-hmm. at this point. So that day should bring awareness to the people that we maybe still can help. Absolutely. You know, instead of always bringing back the memory. Like you said, you're never going to forget her, but I don't want it always bringing up her to the fact like, oh, we're still going to find her, because we're pretty sure we're not. And it brings back that bad part of the memory instead of, let's think of the good of this day, of the Missing Persons Day, and what could help accomplish. Who can we still help? Who can we find? Who can we, help? So it's brought some good mm-hmm. awareness to our area. And so the missing person thing's tough because it's always a lingering question in the back of your mind as to where, what if, how. I mean, questions that you're never going to get an answer to. So
Yeah.
it's a tough situation.
Yeah, and to that fact, the Missing Persons Day is a fantastic thing that got created for this. And you're right. It doesn't need to be. It was created because of her, but it's not for her. It's for everybody who is missing, for the families. It's just support for the families who have been going through it for years. Because you're losing a loved one, but there's all these questions, and so when the one went missing after her. Funny enough, like you said, we went to school with her, but our dads know each other, and I mean, they knew us, they knew Dad, and the question is, how do you deal with this? After they found her, it was quick, thankfully, but it's how do you deal with this? How do you go through it?
I mean, even after they found her, where she got away, which luckily she got away because it actually helped answer some questions about your sister. Mm-hmm. Because if she wouldn't have got away, they may never have ever found the guy who did it.
Yeah.
Stopped him. And stopped him. They like I said, they got in a gunfight with him. They shot him. And then he ended up shooting himself because I don't think he wanted to go to prison. Even the young girl that was taken, that got away. I mean, her parents, regardless or not if they got her back, they still are living with that fear and the thing that happened when she was taken. Like, how do you mentally cope with the fact that your daughter was kidnapped, even though they got her back? It still happened.
Yep.
So I mean, luckily they get her here still, and so like I was young enough, I guess I don't remember your parents. I remember them before, but as far as personality wise, I don't know how much it changed them. Like I said, we started dating obviously after high school, so it was after it happened. So I mean, I don't know. There's a part of you, especially if it's your parents, that I don't think's ever the same.
Absolutely.
There's a part of them that's completely different, whether it's noticeable or not. I mean, I'm sure there's a part of you that's different. I mean, like you said, you've changed a lot since even when we first got married. Because there's a piece that's always going to be missing. So there's something, whether people can recognize it or not. Like you said, there's a lot of people that don't even know who your sister is, that you have a sister, because you don't bring it up all the time because it's not fun to talk about. So people that know you now know you as you, and they don't know that there's that piece that maybe is gone.
Yeah. That's the thing, is people don't, when you look at someone, you don't know their backstory. You don't know their history. I'm usually a pretty happy-go-lucky person. People don't know that, all the dark stuff, the hard stuff. And that's okay. You don't need to know that stuff about me unless I feel comfortable enough to actually say the words to you. You don't need to know. But the reason why it doesn't get brought up a lot is because when someone comes and asks me about it, someone in the community who knows, because our family's well known enough because of who we were, that you continually see people and they want to know. Even to this day, they'll still be like, so what happened? And the fact is, I'm okay with talking with people who actually
care, not
Correct.
Just trying to pry into the information because they want to know or gossip about it. Someone that legitimately cares and that we've known forever and asks how you're doing. Okay, that's fine to talk about because it's a legitimate care that they know what happened. They were there. They were part of the search party, or they were part of helping with the family when it all went down, instead of just someone that just wants the information to go tell someone else. I mean, you can usually tell by the way the person is, or by the way they ask, or how they're trying to pry into the information. So I mean, it's one of those things that you can be pretty closed off with, which understandably, it's kind of hard to fully understand that kind of stuff when you didn't actually experience it that way. And I think the best part about finally, I mean, I don't know that we've ever fully talked about it.
No.
I don't know that it needed to be talked about. I mean, just because I know. But part of this story is if this ever has happened to anybody else, or any type of sort of trauma that's happened to them that's this way, I mean, I think that person needs to realize that over time it will get better. It'll never go away, but you can still have a happy life. You can still grow. You can find that person that can help you through a situation, and you can still be happy. I mean, it doesn't mean you need to close off and not be a person, because, if you really want to get into it, think about it, like, what would your sister want? Like, would she want you to be happy? Would she want this for you? And what kind of things would she want for you? So live that life, like, be happy, have a good life, do the things you want to do, because, when your sister was here, and you guys would hang out and go do stuff, ultimately that was the goal with the two of you, is you two were happy and you two hung out and you did this together and that together, and your sister wants you to do this. And so ultimately I think she would still want that. So do it. Like, and it's going to take time if you went through something like this to grow and heal from it, because that's pretty traumatic to lose a sibling, or if it's been a parent too early, or something of that nature. So it's something that they need to realize, that you can grow from it and you can move on. Just don't ever forget it, because that's something that's always going to be in the back of your mind. Just learn to deal with it, and use it in a positive way to help you grow. Like, what would she want? I mean, like, the positive that comes out of Missing Persons Day is who else can be helped by the knowledge of what happened, and maybe they can prevent it from happening to somebody else.
Yeah, and that's part of the funny. The one time I decided to share my story, I decided to share it this publicly with it, but I felt like it was finally time for me to open my mouth and tell this story and to own it, because something that I've gone through maybe can help somebody else. I'm sure it can't stop the situation, but it can help the person who's going through it. And that's all. That's it. That's the only reason why I'm telling this story. I don't need any other conversations about it. I don't need anything from it. I'm just hoping that if someone has gone through something traumatically, that they know that there is a way to continue on with your life and still have a good life. Yet you're going to have years of sadness, of just utter desolation, and that's okay. It's okay. Understand that. People tell you you'll be fine. Just get over it. You're not. You're not going to get over it, and I think it's disrespectful to tell people to do that. It's okay to feel these feelings, but understand that you have to deal with them at some point if you want to go somewhere, because there's always that thing where someone says, "Will you die for me?" But I think the harder question is, will you live for me? Will you live in my memory for me? Will you live a happy life in honor of me? And that's a hard thing to do when you don't want to. When you don't want to. When you almost feel disrespectful by being happy. It was hard when you go through the first Christmas, the first birthday. And funny enough, her birthday is 2 days after Christmas, so that first December sucked. You go through all these holidays without them. And if you even smile, you feel like it's disrespectful. Because you're out here having a good time, and what if she's somewhere and she's miserable and she's alive and you're doing all this? Like, there's so much guilt and so much just back and forth, because it's not like that she's gone. You think you do, but it's, like I said, there's just so much guilt with that, and all of us in my family felt it. I mean, my parents and their story is probably so much sadder than mine. When I can remember, graduation, getting married, I can remember standing inside the door, looking out the window, seeing everybody outside sitting, waiting, and I can just remember sitting there by myself and just thinking she should be here. Why isn't she here? And that was super hard. I hadn't had those feelings in a long time, and that was a day that she should be there. The day that I was the same age as she was. The day I was older than her. It really puts into perspective the life she didn't get to live. So living, I have so much gratitude for her, because she doesn't get to. And she doesn't get to experience being married. She doesn't get to experience more time with my parents and my brother, and seeing my brother get married and have kids too. There's so much that she misses, but I don't. I get to live. And I get to have an amazing life. And I'm so grateful that I get that. And that's what I try to wake up with every day, is how grateful I am to be here. And be grateful to be happy. And to have a good life. And to know that I pushed through and I survived and I did it. And that every day I'm going to be able to do it. And if I have a hard day, I have someone here who can help pick me up and tell me it's okay. And I hope that if someone has gone through anything, that you have that person, or you have a way to get through it. And if you don't, let me know. Sometimes all you need is just someone to say it's okay. And you'll get through it and you'll make it. So I hope this story did some good for somebody. And I know we're all going to struggle and we're all going to have hard times, but it's not the end of the world. You'll make it. You'll get through. You just have to find the way to do it and find the will inside of you to get through. I'm grateful that I get to be here every day and have someone who gets to enjoy it with me. And I'm grateful that I have someone who understands. I think that was one of the greatest things, is that I didn't have to talk about it. If I needed to, you were there, but you let me just kind of work through getting to the point where I could talk about it if I wanted to. Because if you would have pushed me, it wouldn't have come out.
Well, and I think that's, part of, like I said, the friendship we developed, because I didn't need you to talk about it because I knew what happened. We were there when it happened, and I knew. So I didn't have to ask you questions because I already knew. Like, other than the fact of how are you feeling or how does it make you feel, you can see on your face how it makes you feel, but trying to ask you all the details and the questions and everything like a newlywed couple would, like what happened, like trying to understand it, I didn't have to ask those questions because I knew. Like, I was there, so there was no prying into it because I didn't have to. Now, it's pretty easy to see how it makes you feel. So there wasn't the questions that had to be asked unless you wanted to talk about it. It's like you're saying, there's a lot of people that complain or regret about getting old, and it's one of those luxuries that some people don't get to experience ever. So don't regret getting old. A lot of people don't get that luxury. A lot of people don't get that joy. It's just one of those things that I think people take for granted. Just be happy you wake up every morning. That should be a gratitude that people take for granted. I woke up today because tomorrow's not promised, because look what happened. A lot of people don't wake up to tomorrow. A lot of people, they, like you said, they're just gone and they don't get to experience tomorrow. And it's a sad reality, but it's one of those little luxuries in life that we have that we take for granted. And it's too bad. You need to take a step back and just take a deep breath and just realize, how bad is my life really? How good do I actually have it? It's looking at what do I, look at everything I have. Is my life really that bad? I woke up, I got to see my dogs. We got to see each other. You come home every night, so don't take it for granted.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing with anyone who's going through a trauma or things like that, is finding the good in the days. And I have to tell you, just start small. Just start super small. If you're not grateful that you woke up, maybe you're grateful that the sun's shining. Maybe you're grateful that you just have a moment to sit there. You have coffee. Your gratitude doesn't need to be crazy. It just needs to be enough to make you realize that you're grateful for something. And even not going through trauma, just every day should be something that you try to find something you're grateful for. Because you're right, you're living. You're living. And others aren't. And every day you get to wake up and maybe you have someone you get to say good morning to, good night to, because there are people that you don't get that anymore. You don't even get an option to say goodbye.
I don't know. It's just, like you said, it's one of those things that's not fun to talk about, but I'm actually surprised you wanted to talk about it. I mean, I wasn't expecting you to. It's a lot of people don't know the story. Even some of our closest friends don't know everything that happened. I mean, they don't actually realize because we're married and your last name changed that is your sister. They don't know, and you've never brought it up. So I mean, like I said, I think there's a few of our close friends that don't know anything about it. I mean, you've been pretty closed off about it, which is fine. No one needs to know. I mean, the most important thing is us. And as long as we're dealing with it, we're dealing with it. And you can't really ask for much more. Like I said, if someone wants to talk about it, I mean, you can talk about it. But it's not a talk that just prying into information. I mean, if you've been in a situation that's similar or in some sort of mental distress or struggle or some sort of mental trauma, then yeah, if there's something you can talk about that helps, then great, or maybe it's just a talk of it's comforting to the point where you know that it will get better and you still can live a decent, good, happy life.
The only reason why I'm sharing this story is because I hope it helps somebody. It's not for my good, it's for somebody else's. So I really hope that by sharing this, it does just that. And I really appreciate you listening to it. Appreciate you letting me struggle through it. It was a little rough. You'll see in the coming episodes, I hope this gives you more of an understanding of me. So when we go into the other episodes and we talk about, some of our other struggles, you can kind of see that what struggles I went through because of this and how we made it through, because your traumas don't just affect you, it affects everybody around you and it affects your loved ones. And I think that's something, it's kind of an eye-opener for those of you who've gone through stuff, that you're not healing just for yourself, you're also healing for everybody else around you and who you love. And I really hope you take that to heart, and I hope you listen to our upcoming episodes so that you can maybe get some help in that direction.
Well, yeah, and I mean, if you've got that person in your life, or maybe someone that's trying to be that person in your life, don't push them out. Like, give them a chance to be involved, or give them a chance to help you out, because you never know, that person might be the person that just makes you feel at peace or helps you out. I mean, there's a lot of people that, when they start to receive help, they push it away because they don't want to talk about it. And maybe there's that person that you really don't know that's doing what they're doing. Maybe it's just little bits of information at a time. Maybe you start to trust the person. I mean, let that person help you out. Like, don't push them away. I mean, it doesn't mean you need to go to anything professional. I mean, it could just be a good friend or someone that you didn't realize was that person. If you feel comfortable around the person, just talking about it, period, might help you out.
Yeah. And that's something I definitely did, was I pushed away a lot because I preferred to keep it internal, because if I spoke about it, it was just too hard to talk about it. So it was easier to push it down and not talk about it. And after doing that for so many years, it becomes habit with everything, not just that. You just turn that into a habit, and that's really not a healthy thing to do, and it really causes problems. And let me tell you, when you try to unlearn your past behaviors, it is not quick. It is not pretty. It's pretty, it almost feels like going through it all over again, but there's a brighter side to come out on. And you just have to be strong enough. If you're strong enough to go through this and keep living, you're strong enough to heal from it and continue on by being a better, healthier, happier, more at peace person. It's possible. You can do it. And you're strong enough. You can do it. So we appreciate your time today. We appreciate you listening. And we hope to see you next Wednesday.